are a burden, but they are moving here because the climate is nice here. We don't have as much snow as Orchard Park, and we have nice summers, and we have lots of things to offer. We just have to expand on that and bring in more revenue. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shear.
As you travel around the city, especially in the downtown area, you do see a lot of vacant commercial space. What is your opinion of the current state of the commercial market in Lockport? And where do you see the city's role, if any, in fostering new business or promoting the growth of existing businesses?
We'll begin with Mr. McNall.
Would you say that again, please?
When you travel around the city, you see a lot of vacant properties,
Sure.
commercial properties, especially in the downtown area. So essentially, what, if anything, do you think the city should be doing to kind of promote the growth of business or assist small business, that sort of thing? And if you don't think that's the role of city government, that's fine, but, you know, what would you do as mayor, I guess, to get, you know, development going and grow jobs?
There should be a major amount of concentration on economic development. And I would like to see more of that in the city. If you take a look at the economic development plans in Niagara County that were for years in the hands of Sam Ferraro, who recently passed, he had brought into Niagara County all kinds of companies and businesses. If you should take, for an example, if you should take a ride up on Lockport Road, make a left into the Vantage Center, which is the Center for Economic Development, there would be an example. There is a 150-acre lot there that Mr. Ferraro brought into the county and developed through businesses, many jobs. So what you have to do is to concentrate on that happening in Lockport, and you can work with
Mr.
that.
McNall, time. Ms. Rowan.
I sort of touched on this in my previous responses. I do believe that we should be working together and reaching out to companies and to people within our city limits and outside of our city and even state, and promoting our area as a great place to do business. And those would be my main priorities, and get somebody who understands how to do that. You utilize the people within our community who have experience in these things, and find those people and reach out and have it happen.
Mr. VanValkenburgh.
$10 million we just got as a grant for all downtown revitalization. If nothing changes, then what did we spend the money on? We have something where there's a third of our budget that we normally have every year just for this specific cause. We need to bring the community back. I recommend holding some events that promotes tourism, such as the concert series we used to have. If we create these, we will start creating shoppers downtown. We need the shoppers for the businesses to come in. We need tourism, we need the expansion of a community to get many things working. So, and that's exactly what I plan to do. There's multiple things that need to be accomplished to get all these things done. It's not just one set thing. You have to get people over here, people over there, everybody working together to accomplish these goals, the owners of the buildings, many different people, and I look forward to working with every one of them.
Sure.
The issues concerning the pollution with the 18 Mile Creek in that area, what is your assessment of how the city has handled that? And what would you do as the mayor about that particular issue, but also, you know, other environmental issues that might pop up in the city?
We begin with Ms. Rowan.
I believe that the city was very slow on the uptake for this in response to our pollution and the health of our citizens. It took a long battle and a long fight by people like Shirley Nicholas and Jean, who is here tonight, and they had to rattle the cages really loud and for a really long time. And they got Kathy Hochul involved, they got state people involved, and then some people in the city started getting involved. The other person that got involved heavily was Mark Devine, and he was critical in that. And I have been a part of doing things. I have been on the CAPON, the Citizens Against Pollution of Niagara, and I have been endorsed by the Sierra Group of Niagara because I have been active in trying to fight the Northern Pipe access pipeline and the other things that are happening here. We also have a situation with NYSEG right now who is cleaning up the coal tar in the canal, but we need to expand that out. They just bought a house next to their facility on Transit Road because they know that it's filled with coal tar. And we need to check that entire area. Yes, they fixed LaGrange, but they need to do more. We need to fight for that more.
Thank you. Mr. VanValkenburgh.
There's a serious contamination issue. Like Mrs. Roman said, Ms. Nichols was fighting for such a long time. We have a very tight budget. If I'm your mayor, I'm going to be pounding on Albany's door because this is a state issue. They need to come clean up this contamination because we simply can't afford it. And that's not me stating that I think this is less of a concern. However, this is a crazy, terrible thing that happened that we can't allow. It's a state issue. And we pay state and county taxes, and they need to be helping us out with this issue.
Mr. McNall.
I know that it was placed on the, I believe it was in 2012, that the EPA placed it on the national priority list, Superfund. And in 2015, they moved residents from their homes into different places. I know that there is 14,000 cubic feet of soil that has to be removed, capped, and then fresh soil brought back in. I know that I received an email, which I probably haven't heard, but I'm not going to go through it, where they just approved a $7 million cost to work on 18 Mile Creek and have it done by 2020. The problem is Lockport has a lot of diseased sites. That's not the only one, as you know. I have been aware of that for a long time because there is probably nobody in this room that has lost the family members that I have lost, and I don't talk about that. I don't talk about death, okay? But I can name 4 of my relatives close to me that had grown up in Lower Town, on Clinton and Vine, and all through their life. They were sick, they were ill, and they all died with female diseases. So I'm well aware of this problem. As mayor, I would be constantly going through the senator's office asking for as much help as we could possibly get.
Mr. McNall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scheer.
What are your thoughts about the level of public safety in the community? Do you consider Lockport to be generally safe? Do you see issues in public safety? If you do see issues in public safety, what would your plan be to boost public safety in the community?
We begin with Mr. VanValkenburgh.
Of course, I see issues with public safety, what's happening. We actually had a teenager fatally get stabbed to death this year, which is just, it's unthinkable. I see so many kids out there that really aren't, that are causing trouble. And like I stated earlier, we have an overwhelming larceny case that needs to be addressed, and this ties into it. We need community projects. We need the police force, the fire department, they do so much already, but we also need them to create events in our parks, working with our parks department, helping them leading as volunteers for our kids to create arts athletics. There's many different solutions to get volunteers and get things happening that the community is bringing together without burdening the taxpayer. It's all over. There's a lot of people that really are calling for hope in Lockport, and I'm gonna be right along there with them.
Thank you, Mr. VanValkenburgh. Mr. McNall.
Crime, I would address that in a variety of ways. First, I would make sure that our local law enforcement office has what it needs to address crime. I would then probably put a call into our Niagara County District Attorney, Mr. Matazik, who has done much with programs and that she's put in place, security issues to help the elderly, and speak with her and see if we some of those programs we wouldn't be able to take advantage of. From there, I guess I would knock on the door of our resource officers in the schools. They hear a lot. They know what's going on as well in increased neighborhood watch. Okay, those programs. And I would knock on the door of our local drug task force. That's important. It's that they get involved and share information between the county drug force, the Niagara County Sheriff's Department, all of those things to address reduction in crime.
Thank you, Roman.
I agree with both of my fellow candidates that we do need to address safety and in our city. We do need to create those community coalitions. When you get together and you have to figure out what the source is. And like Mr. VanValkenburgh has stated, we do have a high poverty rate and we do have a high drug problem here in the city, which can lead to unsafe things. But I also think that we don't have enough going on for our youth to be involved and active, and we need mentors for them. We need a Boys and Girls Club. We need to have outlets, not just for them to go and play some pool or play some basketball, but to have role models that work with them and work for them. And we also have to work with law enforcement and probation and other things and find alternatives to this. And training and other things have to go in place in order to not just say react to this problem, but to move forward with it.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. Mr. Schiff.
You're all members of different parties. Can you explain why it is that you chose the particular party you represent and why you sought the endorsement of those parties?
Mr. McNall.
Well, I chose to be a Republican. I've been one for many, many years. I believe in the GOP. I believe in their policy. And why did I seek their endorsement? To certainly strengthen my base, just to strengthen my political base.
Ms. Roman.
I've been a lifelong Democrat, proud of it, not going to walk away from that. But I do believe that at the local level, party should not matter. I have sought the endorsement of the Women's Equality Party because I do believe that women need to be more active and engaged in their communities. In Niagara County, we're actually slightly above for women. We're at 52%, not 50 or 51%, and yet we only have less than a third actively involved in our political process, and that needs to be raised. I have reached out to the Working Family Party because I believe that we need to have a working class that supports our system and supports our community. And I have reached out to the Reform Party because they believe in an open government. They wanted this debate to happen. They want to have open primaries, and they want to have our politics be about community service and a public service the way it should be, and not about party and not about creating a base. It's about creating a community and bringing it all together.
Mr. VanValkenburgh.
well, not too long ago, I used to be a Democrat, but I left, and I'm proud of it. I worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign, and I was heartbroken to see what happened in that primary election. I seen how can I stay in a party where the people don't really choose? We've seen the superdelegates do what they did. This is why Bernie Sanders isn't our president. After seeing that, I said, you know, left wing, right wing, it seems like they just belong to the same bird, working together without the real change that needs to be made. I'm willing to work with them as well. I'll stick to my guns and, you know, be the voice for the people like my whole campaign's all about. And that's why I joined the Green Party, is because we stand up for moral values, and we won't be allowed to be stepped on. And that's exactly what happened in the Democratic last presidential debate.
Mr. Chair.
I asked earlier, when you went door-to-door campaigning, what people told you was the biggest problem facing the city. What, in your opinion, is the biggest problem facing the city, and how would you work to address that problem?
Beginning with Ms. Roman.
I believe that the biggest problem facing our city is the lack of citizen engagement. And we have 18% of Democrats and 40% of Republicans participating in our elections. And I believe that's because they feel disenfranchised. They feel like they are not part of the process. They feel that they are not part of the decision making. And I think that once they see that that can actually happen, and they will have a true voice in the city, then all those other things, the trees, the streets, the businesses, all that will come together as we work together, and we will be able to have a true voice. It should not be just about one person or one party. It needs to be about every resident in every ward throughout the city.
Mr. VanValkenburgh.
I think it's almost impossible to pick the biggest priority that I'm going to accomplish right away. There's so many that I plan on addressing, and I'm sure there's many that are going to arise as well once I review the budget. However, I will address the complaints that have been just avoided. We have over 200 calls about this parking issue, and we're nickel and diming our citizens when there's an easy solution. There's multiple units all throughout the city, and they are having a hard time, and it's making our city look bad when they're parking on grasses, front lawns, stuff like that. We need to adopt a policy for them where, I know this can't happen throughout the whole city, but we can map out some areas where odd days they're parking on one side, even days they're parking on the other. This way plows can still get through. For in the wintertime, emergency vehicles can still get through. It's just one of the problems that have been avoided and that should have been accomplished years ago. We talk about the trees. How long have we been talking about the trees? Like I said, I'm going to be at NYSEG right away, and they're going to help with these trees. There's many solutions to the
Mr.
problems.
VanValkenburgh. Mr. McNall.
Thank you. In my campaigning, I have heard much about it's too expensive to live in Lockport. The taxes are too high. Water bills, too high. For example, I'll use myself. About $880 a year for water, compared to the town. So I hear a lot about that. I hear a lot about parents wanting more safety in schools, especially in this day and age where people are, let's just say, unstable and confused. They are worried about that. Those are the three things I've heard mainly a lot of people speak about. Okay, water bill. You try for grants. You do any way you can. Anything you can do to bring in aid, financial aid, to assist our water costs, the infrastructure of the water system. That's one. Resource officers, maybe we need more. You know, all it takes is one time to have a nightmare happen in schools, and we certainly don't want that.
Mr.
And-
McNall, time.
Thank you.
Folks, we're at that point in the debate where I'm going to,
Just one more.
wait a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. We're going to give Mr. Shear one more question. We're going to call it a lightning round. Each of the candidates will have 30 seconds to answer, and then we will go to closing statements. Go ahead.
Just to flip around the last question a little bit, what would you consider the city's best asset?
Okay, we begin with Mr. VanValkenburgh, 30 seconds.
I see a lot of people that have lost a lot of hope, but they realize that it's still their town, and I'm glad that my campaign has brought so much attention. So I'm encouraged by the people who are the strong leaders who want to be a part, and I'm hopeful that we will all accomplish things that the citizens are demanding.
Mr. McNall, 30 seconds.
I think my answer to that would be the history of Lockport and what it offers through education, through tourism, and the opportunity to bring in people to expand on that. I can cite for you Belva Lockwood. Belva Lockwood, first woman, lived in Royalton, Heartland, the first woman to practice in the Supreme Court. I believe she even ran for president. And I might add that before Belva Lockwood was Belva Lockwood, she was Belva McNall. So, and I'm proud of that.
Mr.
So,
McNall.
it's our history.
And Ms. Roman, 30 seconds.
The people of this community are the most important and the most valuable asset that we have, and we need to get together and be a community. It is the people.
Ms. Roman, thank you. We could go another hour, I'm sure, with these fine candidates, but we have state assembly candidates who are waiting to come in and take the stage. We're now going to begin closing statements from all the candidates, and once again, the order of the closing statements, as with the opening statements, was determined by a random draw of numbers. So we will begin the closing statements with Mr. McNall. Mr. McNall, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, thank you. I guess first of all, I would thank the Lockport Union Sun for the opportunity to come here tonight and participate in this debate. I would thank the people who were here, who wanted to come and listen. I believe that I am the most qualified here to walk into the city and be mayor. And I say that because of my experience of 30 years in public service, be it school board, be it Niagara County Legislature, where I've chaired many different committees, social services, administration, and now I chair the legislature. I think whoever walks into the position of mayor needs to have a growth of knowledge on how to run a organization, a business as large as a city. I believe I have that knowledge. I believe I can do that job. My vision would be to make Lockport a better tomorrow than what it is today. And in ending, I want to just add one thing, and I'll stop about myself. Don't ever make, and I said it earlier, the major mistake of a part-time or a half-time mayor, because we have a friend coming to town in about 2 weeks, maybe 3. His name is Winter, and he brings with him snow, ice, freezing rain, and all of those things that make it uncomfortable for about 6 months. We have in Lockport a high school, a couple middle schools, half a dozen elementary schools, where you never know during the course of the morning hours or early afternoon or whatever it might be, an emergency occurs, and somebody with authority has to be available and accessible to make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Ms. Roman. I'm sorry, Mr. McNall. Apologies. I'm already moving ahead to the next debate. Thank you, Mr. McNall.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking the time to come out tonight and and thank you for the Union Sun and Journal and Niagara Gazette for initiating this debate and to moving it to the bigger venue. I appreciate that. I appreciate both of my candidates stepping out and wanting to be a part of our community and wanting to see a brighter future. I respect that, and I love the fact that we have so many people that want to be engaged. I will be accessible and responsive, and I believe that every resident has a right to be heard and empowered. I do believe that the power comes from you. It's time that our local government is for the people and also by the people. And together we can change the status quo of Lockport. And I'm not just saying that as a platitude, I'm saying it because I truly believe it. And my life experiences throughout my history here in Lockport as a public educator have prepared me to be that representative for you that can lead us forward.
Thank you, Ms. Room. Mr. VanValkenburgh.
I want you all to ask yourselves who wants to be mayor in this election. Now, I have not accepted a single donation, not held a single fundraiser. I don't believe that anybody should be supporting me to prove the job that I could do for all of you guys. Now, that's stating that nobody's in my pocket and I am in it for the citizens. I have donated to myself less than $500 on this campaign, yet I created just as much awareness as my opponents here. So that didn't take big money, it took hard work, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. VanValkenburgh. I want to thank all the candidates for coming out and making themselves available to you, the residents of Lockport, and the voters. We're going to take about a 10-minute break to prepare for our second debate. Before the candidates leave the stage, you may all give them a round of applause. So welcome back. This is now part 2 of our election 2018 debate, and our debate now focuses on the 144th State Assembly District. Our candidates are Democrat John DePasquale and Republican Mike Norris.
Joe.
Joe DePasquale, sorry.
Like the sign, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. Our candidates are Joe DePasquale and Mike Norris. The rules will be somewhat different from the mayoral debate. We will begin with 2-minute opening statements. We will conclude with 2-minute closing statements. We will allow the candidates 2 minutes of time to answer each question, and if they feel the need, we will allow for 30-second rebuttals on the questions.
Okay.
The order in which the candidates give their opening and closing statements was determined by the flip of a coin, and so we will begin with Mr. Norris.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and privilege to be here today. I think it's very important for democracy that we have these types of debates. I want to thank my opponent, Dr. Joe DePasquale, for being here today and to having a very spirited debate on the issues. And also, over the course of the campaign, I want to thank you for running a very clean campaign. We've been very issue-oriented, and I think that's a benefit for all of the people of the 144th District. I am very privileged to currently be the incumbent, serving for the last 22 months as a New York State Assemblyman from this district, which comprises parts of Niagara, Orleans, and Erie counties. I also want to thank the Union Sun and Journal and the Keenan Center today for hosting this debate. I really do appreciate that. I decided to enter public service, public life many years ago. I had the honor to work with our late Mayor Thomas C. Rotundo when I was a senior in high school. And Mayor Rotundo at the time told me, Mike, there is no problem that is too big or too small, because to the individual who has the problem, it's important to them. And for 25 years, I remembered that piece of advice from Mayor Rotundo. And throughout my career, serving as a town attorney in the town of Lockport, also as Deputy Corporation Counsel in the City of Lockport, and in the town of Somerset, and also being town prosecutor in Heartland and Lockport, I remembered this. And I remembered this as the representative of the 144th District over the last 22 months. I have fought hard for the people of this district, including standing up against the massive state budgets. When I go door to door, I hear about, it's not the weather, Governor Cuomo, why people are leaving. It's because taxes are too high and there's a lack of good paying jobs. I have a record in the New York State Assembly of standing up against these massive state budgets. The other thing I want to mention is ethics reform. I think it is critically important following the Buffalo billion scandal. I think investment in Western New York is important. We need our fair share. But at the same time, we must make sure there's open and transparency in our government.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Mr. DePasquale.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Union Sun and Journal and thank every single person here today and my opponent, Mr. Norris. I am thrilled to be running for the New York City Assembly seat in District 144. I was born and raised in Lockport in the West End on Bright Street. Graduated from Syracuse University. Moved to Los Angeles, was hired by ABC. Worked in the specials department there until Fox Broadcasting was created. Went over to Fox to work in their made-for-TV movie unit. I developed a film called Doing Tom on Maple Drive, which was nominated for 3 Emmys. It was an incredible success, and I'm thrilled and grateful to have been a part of that. After that wonderful experience, I left to start my own company, Bright Street Pictures. I produced a film called Any Mother's Son with Bonnie Bedelia and Seda Thompson, which won a GLAAD Award and was a huge hit, and I'm very grateful for that too. A lot of hard work went into making that film, and also the film I followed it up with, The Father for Brittany, with Andrew McCarthy, which aired on CBS. I shot that in Toronto, and I met Mel Natzhammer, who was running the communications department at Buffalo State College, who invited me to teach a class, and the education bug bit me. I moved to Buffalo and started the film studies program at the University of Buffalo, where I got my master's and my PhD. It was a thrilling time to work in Buffalo. I produced a play called Bread and Onions at the Kavanaugh. In 2013, my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I packed a bag and moved home to Lockport to care for her until she passed in 2015. My father died 7 months after she did. I became involved in the environmental issue in Lockport because no one else was paying attention. And I felt it was very, very important that we got together as a community and fought this. The environment is all we have. I helped co-found a group called Citizens Against Pollution of Niagara. You heard about them before. They were successful, we were successful in getting 18 Mile Creek put on the Superfund site. I'm very proud to be a part of that organization. And Gene Keeney's here tonight. Hi, Gene.
Thank you, Ms. Squally. Time flies. 2 minutes is quick.
Absolutely.
Mr. Scheer with the question.